He later rebuked the other men for their inattention to Ramju, saying, "You all still possess too much selfishness. When this goes away, thoughtlessness will also leave you, and you will be helpful to others in their suffering. Abandon your selfish thoughts and live for others." Because of Rustam's extravagance and the Mandali's lack of care toward Ramju, Baba threatened to move to Happy Valley with Nervous. Ramju pleaded with him that he could not remain at Meherabad in his absence without proper medical care. Baba asked him to go either to Rustam's house or to the local hospital. Ramju preferred the former, but added that it would be better if he were sent home. Baba then said he would cancel going to Happy Valley on condition that someone agree to manage things in the post office, home manager, and another to supervise the labor work. Padre chose the latter, but no one came forward to handle the domestic affairs. Finally, Rustam agreed to it. Then Gustaji said he would become the manager. So Rustam was freed of this responsibility. Baba approved of the new arrangement. Baba had warned the man about the difficulties of living with the master and voiced his concern about the difficulties of living at Meherabad with him. Discoursing that same evening, he remarked, "Maya, illusion, always does its best to attract everyone toward it, and it is a stumbling block in the path of truth. The reason of its so doing is that it understands that once a person reaches the truth, Maya becomes his handmaiden. Maya rolls beneath the feet of a realized one. Its powers conquer a man stuck in ignorance, but the man of knowledge rules it." The Hindu Mandali celebrated Hanuman's birthday on Saturday, 19th April, 1924. Hanuman is considered one of the greatest of Lord Ram's disciples. When the program was over, Gulmai and Rustam arrived with the archie materials. Their late arrival upset Baba, who complained, "Why did you bother to come at all?" Rustam explained that they had had a flat tire on the way. Baba accepted this reason and then distributed the sweets. He also extended the Hanuman celebration another hour, thus enabling the Mandali time to digest the prasad. After dinner, Baba gathered the men outside the japti and inquired about the activities of the day. He asked Masaji if there was any leftover food. Masaji replied affirmatively. Baba asked the Hindu cook, Chowdhury, who replied, "At times there is, but I never throw it away. I share it with Khandaram." Hearing this, Baba reproved the Parsi, Irani, and Muslim men and sternly asked Masaji, "Why do you people waste food?" The Hindu Mandali never do so because they value food. Masaji explained that he cooked less that day than the day before. No one else said anything. Then Gustaji uttered a critical remark. Baba did not like Gustaji's comment and ordered, Tomorrow, each Parsi, Irani, and Muslim must fall at the feet of every Hindu. Baba then suddenly confronted Barso. Will you fall at their feet? Not getting a quick enough answer, Baba was extremely vexed and slapped Barso soundly. He then slapped Nervous and knocked him aside. He then turned to the stonemason, Cairo Gaundi, but instead of striking him, Baba urged him to work harder, asking him if he would be able to work extra hours that night. Cairo said that if it were an order, he would do so, although he was feeling tired. Baba told him to go sleep. Baba then asked the Mandali to dig holes 2 feet deep for the planting of jasmine tree saplings and flower bushes around his japti. After the holes were dug, there was another exchange of sharp words between Gustaji and Baba. Gustaji frankly accused Baba of breaking his promise not to interfere with managing Meherabad and deliberately creating this incident regarding the leftover food. Baba retorted, had I not kept my word, I would not for one moment have tolerated your bitter and sharp words. It is because of this promise that I do not pay attention to your insulting behavior. Had it been anyone else of the Mandali who said what you said, I would have killed him. This silenced Gustaji and the other men. Gustaji reestablished himself as the household manager, and Baba promised once again not to interfere. But the master is beyond promises, and words cannot bind him. There was a deeper significance to his creating an uproar over the food. The Hindu Mandali had their food cooked separately, and according to their orthodox views, would not eat food prepared by others or by Hindus of lower caste. This confrontation was the beginning of doing away with their prejudice. The master, in a very natural way, abolished this distinction of different food for different mandali, but it would take 2 years more to do so. Volume 2 of Sakarina Sadhguru was printed in Surat and published by Circle and Company in 1924. In addition to more biographical material about Upasni Maharaj, the book contained the experiences of some of Maharaj's disciples and a brief introduction to Meher Baba by Bailey.
Thank you, Rosalie. You want to continue or should I ask someone else?
Someone else can read.
Thank you. Surekha, would you like to read?
Jai Baba. Definitely. Meanwhile, Bailey was sent to Calcutta for a month to sell copies of the Urdu edition. Khak was dispatched to Lucknow, Lahore, and Punjab for the same purpose. While in Calcutta, Bailey happened to meet Baba's paternal uncle, Sheriar's younger brother, who had lost contact with his brother. Bailey informed him about his nephew's exalted status and told Baba about him when he returned to Meherabad. On 20th April 1924, Gulmai and Rustam arrived at 4 in the afternoon with special food for Baba. They brought a copy of the Iranian Association's journal, Akhbar, in which a critical review of Upasni Maharaj's Gujarati biography appeared. Saurabh Desai had written an article in the same newspaper stating that He had met Meher Baba and fully believed that he was the coming of the Jagat Guru, Master of Universe, the Avatar. Gulmai used to come every day to Meherabad, bringing Baba's food. Due to her financial help, as well as that of Adi and Rustam, the work in Meherabad was greatly fel- facilitated. The stone flooring for the jhopri was expected to be completed within a week, but was finished in 2 days. The month of April is the middle of summer in India, and the heat was intense. But despite this, much work was accomplished. The next morning, while the Bundli were engaged in their duties, Baba came and said, "Today Naval, Talati, is coming, and he will definitely bring fruit for all." He repeated this, but when Naval arrived from Bombay with his wife Dina and her mother Rupamai, he had not brought any fruit. Baba scolded him for disappointing the Mandli and said, "Just see how they are slaving away in the summer sun. They are working like mules, but there is no need for them to despair. Some other treat will surely come." After a short time, Gulmai and Rustam arrived from Ahmednagar with a bundle of sweets, along with the happy news that Rustam's wife Freni had given birth to a son that day. Baba distributed sweets among the Mandli in the honor of the happy occasion, and he named the child Merwan after himself. Merwan Rustam Irani was later known as Mehlu. Jalbhai was now living with the Mandli at Meherabad once more. On 22nd April, he and Adi Senior were given the duty of watering the jasmine saplings that had been planted on both sides of the chopri from 7:30 to 10 a.m. and from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. and were therefore freed from other work. That afternoon, a strange looking person came near the well and, after quenching his thirst, indicated he was hungry. Jalbhai and Adi were taken aback and brought him to Baba, who appeared delighted with his arrival and explained that the man was a mast, a god intoxicated person traversing the inner planes. The mast was served food and given sweets. He was also questioned, but he simply nodded without answering. Baba had him dressed in a new shirt and a new pair of pants, and then sent him away on the road. Although his name is not recorded, he was the first must to enter Mehrabad. On another day, an old woman with her two sons came begging in the evening. They were brought to Baba, and Baba asked Chaudhry to cook them fresh dal and rice. Baba asked the elder son to sing and play the musical instrument he carried. He sang the life stories of two Hindu saints, Gopichan and Machindra Nath. Baba appeared touched by the songs. They were given food, and Baba permitted them to depart after giving them new clothes. During this period, Gustachi was busy all the time and working the hardest of anyone. When the other Mandli were resting in the afternoon, he would have to water the recently cemented flooring in the scorching sun. Naval, too, was enlisted for work and was repairing the pump in the well. As the days went on, things became harder, and because of the intense heat, the arduous physical labor, and each man's own strong personality, tempers would flare. For example, for several days, a bitter resentment had been brewing between Barsop and Kostachi. Barsop asked Kostachi for a new prayer carpet for offering namaz, but his request was refused. Barsop was quite angry and did not mince his words. abusing Gustachi's miserliness as a tight-fisted household manager. The same evening, when the monthly were gathered, Baba asked Baso, "Has your anger against Gustachi subsided?" Baso openly admitted it. The same evening, when monthly were gathered, Baba asked Baso, "Has your anger against Gustachi subsided?" Baso openly admitted that it had not. Baba then said, "However someone may treat you, you should always be calm. However one may pierce you with sharp words, you should bear them quietly with patience. This is real bravery and courage. A man may subdue a whole army, but be unable to control his own anger." The Master then commented about the humility of Jesus Christ when he was tortured and crucified, and concluded, "According to the Swami Ramakrishna, there are three things which keep a person away from God. They are lust, greed, and anger. The first two, lust and greed, may be overcome, but the control of the temper is the hardest of all. If you conquer these three enemies, you will become a saint." Who is a saint? He who controls lust, greed, and anger. To make the monthly gain more control of themselves, Baba issued the following two rules. Each morning, every member of the monthly should touch the feet of every other member and say, "You are my brother." During the 24 hours of the day, if anyone expresses anger and speaks bitterly to anyone else, I should be informed immediately. I will then fall at the offender's feet and salute him. Barsuk countered, "The first rule is against the Shariat customs of my religion, that's Islam." But Baba explained, "This rule only requires the touching of feet with both hands. There's no question of either bowing down or laying one's head on another's feet." However, Basub insisted that it was against the Shariat to touch the feet of another. So Baba instructed that instead of touching the feet, Basub should shake hands with the other men. Ramju was also a Muslim, and Baba then asked him, "Do you find any religious difficulty in following this?" Ramju said, "I do not consider the rules to be against the Shariat, and I accept the first rule, but I will not report to you and allow you to touch my feet." Padri and Nervous also refused initially to abide by the second rule, but they agreed after Baba explained to them that it was his order. Baba spoke privately with Ramju and told him, "You have done what Barsov did. Accept my wish on principle and carry it out without the least hesitation. What Shariat can exceed my wish? My wish is religion, and my wish is Shariat, and he who obeys it obeys the Shariat and fulfills the tenets of his religion. Always be mindful of my wish, regardless of anything else." Ramju explained, "But I would not like it if you touched my feet. I revere you." "Why do you talk about likes and dislikes?" Baba retorted. "You should like whatever I like. If you don't follow my wish, how could you revere me? You cannot be a slave to your own wish and revere me at the same time." Ramju replied, "It will break my heart to see you touching my feet."
Thank you. Mahu,
Jai
would you
Baba.
like to read? Jai Baba.
Okay, I'll read. Page 504. Okay. Baba answered, "And it will break my heart not to touch your feet. Again, Baba answered, and it will break my heart not to touch your feet. Ramju was quiet and could not say anything else. Baba then freed him from observing the second rule, telling him not to worry and to forget it. To prevent stray cows and goats from destroying the jasmine saplings, a barbed wire fence was erected on all sides of the Jopti. It had been proposed that a flag be flown near the Jopti, and a debate ensued about it. The Hindus said the color of the flag should be red, but Ramju objected, saying that the red reflected only Vedanta and that green was better. Then the Hindus took objection, arguing that green was typically a Mohammedan color. The Parsis and Iranis disapproved of both colors, and to bring about accord, Baba proposed the flag should be of 7 colors. Dina prepared a flag accordingly, and after it was sewn, it was hoisted near the master's Jupti on the evening of 23 April 1924. As the flag stirred, Baba remarked, "Do you know why I suggested a 7-colored flag? The 7 colors represent the 7 planes of consciousness." Baba had specified the positioning of 2 colors. Red should be at the bottom of the flag and sky blue at the top. Arrangement of the other 5 colors is your decision. He later added, besides representing the 7 planes of consciousness, these colors also represent sanskaras. The colors in the flag signify man's rise from the grossest of impressions of lust and anger, symbolized by red, to the culmination in the highest state of spirituality and oneness with God, symbolizes by sky blue. That night after dinner, when all were sitting around Baba, Ramju asked him, "What are the stars?" The master explained, "Stars, like planets, are spheres, but many of the planets are inhabited by human beings. They resemble the earth in culture, science, and in every way materially. But from the spiritual point of view, our earth is the most advanced, for the perfect masters are born on this planet. These other planets seem far off from one another, but in reality, they are close. After realization, a man finds them issuing from himself in the millions, like tiny bubbles. He finds himself to be source of everything, the maker of all. Although the gross spheres of the universes are different, the spiritual planes from beginning to end are one." Page 505. In later years, Baba explained that there exists in the physical cosmos 18,000 planets with human life forms and millions of planets with evolutionary life forms, along with the million and millions of universes which are in a state of cosmic evolution. But he clarified that Earth was the only planet where the process of involution occurred, that only on Earth do human beings experience the planes of spiritual consciousness. And he further explained that not only were the five perfect masters on Earth, but also the entire 7,000 member spiritual hierarchy of saints and advanced souls. The footnote says, for an explanation of Meher Baba's cosmology, refer to God Speaks, pages 244 and 271 to 274. The two new rules came into effect, and according to the second rule, on 24th April, Baba bowed down to Padri for not following his instructions. Nervous happened to be standing by and to tease him. Baba bowed to him also, but Nervous took it seriously and weeping was on the brink of leaving Mehrabad. Baba tried to console him, saying, I bowed to you of my own accord and not for any default on your part. There is nothing for you to object to. Nervous remained adamant, and though willing to adhere to all of the master's other instructions, he was obstinate about leaving Mehrabad and continued to weep. Baba exempted Nervous from the second rule, but this did not appease him, and he remained firm in his resolve to leave. At last, Baba permitted Nervous to go and offered him train fare, which he refused. Baba then asked, how will you travel without money? Nervous pointed to the gold buttons on his shirt, implying that he would sell them. Baba ripped them off and then said, you can go on two conditions. One is that you beg for your food, and the other is that you do not borrow or steal. Nervous accepted these conditions and was about to leave when Baba added, wherever you go, I will follow. Nervous started to leave Mehrabad, and Baba followed him along the road. He began running, and Baba too. Baba too began running. After some distance, Nervous started laughing and returned along with Baba. After Nervous calmed down, Baba asked him, why were you so dramatic? Nervous said, when I had not become angry or spoken harshly with anyone, why did you touch my feet? Baba replied, I did so because of some fault in you. Had I not touched your feet, how could you or others have known you had shortcomings? Had there been no offense, you could have remained quiet, considering it to be my wish. Although you have faults, you thought yourself faultless. I had to show you that you were not so. Baba concluded, quote, Although you are faultless, still you are at fault. But I will free all of you from your weaknesses. So always listen to me and remember to carry out whatever I say. On 25th April, more construction began to extend. Sorry, there's a phone. I'm sorry. On 25th April, more construction began to extend the stone floor veranda of Baba's Jupti and to build a private bathroom for him. Meher's horse, Sufi, also arrived at Mehrabad that day. The horse was pure white and very beautiful. A section of the mess quarters was converted into a stable where the horse was kept. Although quite handsome, Sufi proved to have a devil of a spirit. Soon after he was brought, Baba applied vermilion to his forehead and sat on him for a minute. When Baba honored her horse in this manner, the men Mandali realized the master's unique love for Meher. A wandering sannyasi or ascetic once showed up at Mehrabad during this period. He had heard of Meher Baba and desired the master's darshan. A typical sadhu, he affected long matted hair, a beard, and his body was smeared with ashes. He was dressed in the traditional ochre robe. Baba asked him, "Who are you? Where do you come from? And where are you going?" The sannyasi, with evident pride, listed all the places of pilgrimage he had visited and said he had now come to Mehrabad. Baba asked, quote, "Now what?" "I have come to have your darshan," the sannyasi replied. Baba then, "From there I will go to Girnar. Then go further and wander throughout Mount Abu. Then I will proceed further and continue visiting holy places. Then what? I will continue roaming as I have been doing." "For how long?" Baba said. The sadhu replied, "Until I find my master. Once the master's grace descends, I will be free." "Baba, when will that happen?" "Whenever it is destined." Baba said, quote, "Everyone is destined to realize God in the end, but no one has any idea of it. Everyone goes his own way." Where are we? Everyone goes his own way. Yeah. "What are we to do then?" pleaded the sannyasi. "Baba, become addicted to a guru. Become dedicated to a guru." "Such a one is not found or seen. Your eyes are to blame. The master is everywhere. He is to be searched for and recognized." Close quote.
Thank you, Mahu.
Sure.
Renee, are you there? Would you like to read?
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
I am ready to find him. I will show you God, but would you do as I say? The sannyasi said he was ready, and Baba directed him to sit under a nearby tree. Baba told him to wait there and said he would give him instructions after some time. The sannyasi walked over to the tree and sat down. Baba became occupied with supervising the labor work of the mandali, during which several of the men were harshly scolded. After half an hour, Baba sent Padri to the sannyasi. Baba sent Padri to bring the sannyasi to him, but he was gone. Baba commented to the mandali, "It is easy to renounce the world by wearing ochre-colored clothes, but to find the master is very difficult. Surrenderance at his feet is even more difficult, but the most difficult of all is to carry out the master's orders. Take that sannyasi, for instance. For years he has been visiting places of pilgrimage, undergoing hardships in the heat and cold, and he has made innumerable pilgrimages and will go on making them for years to come. But unless and until he surrenders to a guru, he will gain nothing. He will go on wandering with his face and body covered with ashes. Even if he comes in contact with a real master, he understands nothing and flings away the cup which is very near his lips. I told him to sit underneath a tree, which he could not do for even half an hour. It is beyond one's capacity to realize God except by the grace of a master. And it is not easy to gain that grace. It requires the preparation of births and births to be worthy of it. Therefore, those who are living in the intimate contact of the Master are truly blessed." Later, describing the real lover of God, Baba said, "As a thirsty man under the scorching sun in the desert values water more than pearls or diamonds, so also a true lover of God only thirsts for him." Page. As a thirsty man under the scorching sun in the desert values water more than pearls or diamonds, so also a true lover of God only thirsts for him and considers everything else as dust before him. A real lover is not after name, fame, or wealth. He only yearns for God, his beloved. He who does not possess this attribute is a man full of self-interest. Later, when Ramju was reading to Baba from an Urdu book about the Sufi saint Mansur, he was horribly martyred, Baba stated. "I will live in the world for 54 more years, after which I will undergo a tragic death. The Parsis will bring about my end in a very bad way." 508 Journeying. The meaning of Baba's statement about his end is quite different from his physical death. At that time, the result of Baba's inner work manifested in the form of opposition from Parsis and Iranis in Pune, Bombay, and Ahmednagar, and it lasted for some years. This opposition was a medium of his work, but it was so virulent it could have become a threat to his life. The Zoroastrian community's opposition gradually subsided, and some Parsis and Iranis made a guarded approach to him as a genuine master, and several eventually became his disciples. A religiously devout Parsi named Nadir Shah Barucha, was a resident of Meherabad at this time. He would regularly fast and do japa, mental repetitions of the prayer of the name of God. On 25th April, Baba gathered the mandali and told each to sing a song, and everyone did so. And he then asked Nadir Shah to sing. Nadir Shah replied indignantly, "I never go to plays or movies, and I don't know how to sing. Kindly excuse me." Hearing this, Baba became very angry and told him, "Have you such a low opinion of these men that you compare them to a troupe of performers? Have you ever thought of their renunciation? They have renounced their own pleasure to keep my pleasure and do all work according to my wish. Is there any austerity or penance which is greater or can compare with this? Don't have such foolish ideas about them." Embarrassed, Nadina sought Baba's pardon, and the singing continued until 9 at night. Even those who did not have good voices had to sing, and it was amusing to listen to their off-key efforts. That day, Baba had fasted, drinking only watermelon juice and rose syrup mixed in milk. On Saturday, 26th of April 1924, after the Gamala yoga work was over, during the afternoon break, the master gave a brief discourse about diet. There are many disadvantages to eating meat. The chief one is that eating meat increases passion, lust. There is very little consciousness in stones, almost nil. It is in vegetation that the manifestation of consciousness begins. Consciousness increases as an animal form evolves into another animal form. In man, it is complete. With the advance in consciousness, passion also increases. The more the consciousness, the more the passion, the less the consciousness, the less the passion. So if we eat meat, the degree of passion increases in us. But if we remain on vegetarian food, then if neither increases nor decreases, then it neither increases nor decreases. Very early the next morning, while the men were sitting quietly for their 2 hours of prayers, Masaji was heard shouting that the horse Sufi had run away. Baba told them to catch the horse. For over 1 hour on foot and on bicycles, they chased Sufi through fields and ditches and finally, after much difficulty, caught him. One of the men remarked, "He should have been named Satan instead of Sufi." Later in the afternoon, Rustam brought a horse trainer, and without Baba's knowledge, the trainer mounted Sufi. Baba was furious when he found out and told Rustam, "Sufi was presented to me, and he's now mine. How dare you exercise any proprietary right to my things? You should first ask my permission before touching something that belongs to me." Rustam begged his pardon and thus became aware of how much the master loved that horse. Considering that it belonged to his sister-in-law, Meher, Rustam had told the trainer it was all right to ride the horse, but he realized his mistake. On Sunday, 27 April, a Zoroastrian of Ahmednagar named Nashwan Naroji Satha, 27, went out for a long stroll with either one or both of his brothers, Homai and Pilu. There's a footnote there, Mona. Accounts differ to which of the brothers went with Nashwan that day, although Homai almost also met Baba around that same time. They happened to pass by Meherabad. From a distance, they saw Meher Baba sitting alone under a tree in a majestic pose. Nashwan thought, who is that person? He looks like Zoroaster. He approached while Pilu kept aloof, and the master lovingly had him sit beside him. They sat quietly for a while, and Nashwan kept having these thoughts. Is he really Zoroaster? Is this the prophet? Baba immediately remarked, Zoroaster is born again, but people do not recognize him. Nashwan was startled, realizing the master had read his thoughts. Baba then asked, what do you do? In a sincere manner, Nashwan answered, I am a follower of Mahatma Gandhi and am taking an active part in the movement for national independence. Baba smilingly replied, give up all thought of political independence and concentrate on self-realization, which is real independence and true self-rule. Nashwan could not comprehend what he meant. Baba concluded, advising him, continue coming here and you will understand all that I am telling you. Baba tossed an orange to Homai, who caught it. The brothers had lunch with the Mandali and stayed at Meherabad until evening. Nashwan was from a large Zoroastrian family, and due to his first meeting at Meherabad, the entire Satha family, Jai Baba, the entire Satha family became closely connected with Meher Baba, including Nashwan's sister, Gaimai Jesawala, and her family.
Thank you, Renee. Norsavan was very happy with this chance meeting and returned home in an ecstatic mood. Although Norsavan had seen Meher Baba during 1921 at the housewarming ceremony of Sarosh Manzil and most likely at Rustam's wedding, he had not known who he was, nor had he walked with him. Seeing him now, Norsavan immediately felt drawn to Baba. Norsavan was not the only local resident who came to Meherabad. Others from Ahmednagar began to come for the Master's darshan regularly, and Meherabad turned into a scene of great activity. On 20th April, Baba gave this message to a gathering of local people who had come for his darshan. Divinity is an unlimited treasure. It is useless and pointless to contact a Satpurush, a God-realized soul, to gain material benefit. Gulmai traveled to Pune at 10 p.m. that night, and as the train passed Meherabad, Baba and the Mandali stood by the railway tracks and waved to her. The next day, Adarsha Irani and his friend Faram of Karachi came to meet Baba and presented fruit and sweets to him. Baba discussed with Adarsha about planning a fruit orchard at Meherabad, similar to the ones he had seen in Persia, and told him if you were to begin an orchid here, my men would have employment. Ardisha was quite prepared to begin such work, and from that day began living at Meherabad as one of the Mandali. Baba designated him Director of Agriculture and advised him to begin immediately to fertilize and improve the soil for the orchid. Adarsha had been introduced to the master at Manzile Meen through Baido, and even at that time, he was eager to stay with the master. Just one moment. Yeah. Baba had assured him he would call him later, and on this day, Baba fulfilled that promise. However, the Mandali were not so thrilled with this new addition to the ranks. I'm sorry, I'm a bit lost. Rosalie, can you take over? Can you unmute yourself, Rosalie?
Ardisha, being a hardy Irani, was a harsh taskmaster. This newly appointed Director of Agriculture literally worked the Mandali to a breaking point. He worked them so hard that Ramji wondered how many of them would live to see the orchard blooming, much less survive to taste its fruit. On 30 April 1924, Gulmai returned to Ahmednagar and went immediately to see the master. She presented him with a sadra, a white robe made of thin muslin material, which became Meher Baba's standard dress from that day on. During their conversation at the Japti, Kushro Kursitji Nagarwala, a wealthy Orthodox Zoroastrian from Ahmednagar, arrived at Meherabad with another person. Without consulting anyone, Khusrau walked straight towards Baba's Japti. Barsok told him to take off his shoes before entering the hut, but disregarding him, he went straight before Baba and asked, "What yogi do you practice? What yoga do you practice?" "Gamala yoga," Baba stated. Khusrau then asked, "Why do you wear long hair and go about naked?" Baba discreetly pointed to his boxer shorts under his pajamas, and then pointing at Khusrau's English suit and hat, asked, "Why do you put on a hat? Did Zoroaster the prophet ever dress like this?" Khusrau felt insulted and angrily retorted, "Yes, Zoroaster did wear such clothes." And though he knew Meher Baba was wearing underwear, he kept repeating that he was naked. Despite Nagarwala's arrogant tone, Baba continued to calmly and politely answer his questions. Failing to make Baba lose his temper, Khusrau and his friend began shouting abuses. "You're a fake, a hypocrite, and an imposter. You misguide people." Overhearing this, Adi, Gulmai's son, lost his temper and angrily told them to leave at once. Baba stopped Adi from saying anything further and told him to bow down to them and beg their pardon. Adi did so and asked them to forgive his rude behavior. This humiliating this humiliating gesture on the part of Khan Sahib's son, however, made them feel embarrassed. They quietly left without any further incident. After a few days passed, Khusrau Nargawala unexpectedly showed up at Meherabad alone and asked Meher Baba's pardon for his insolence. For several days during May 1924, Baba fasted solely on a small amount of milkless tea. His presence near Arangawan caused much interest among the local villagers. The poor farmers gradually realized that there was a sadhu or holy man living nearby. One day, two children, Bao Chima Kamble and Chabu Sona Kamble, snuck over to Meherabad. Baba spotted them and beckoned them to approach him. They became frightened and started crying. Baba gently caressed them and saying, "Don't be afraid. Tell me where you live." Bao Chima replied that they resided in Arangawan. Baba asked how many children there were in the village and what they did all day. The boy explained that there were many Meher and Mang children, lower caste untouchables, who take the goats and cows for grazing. Baba then asked, if they are given sweets, will they come to visit me? Smiling, Chabu says, for Kandri, every one of the children will come, sir. Baba then smiled, saying, tomorrow bring them all here. Baba then called for sweets from Gustaji and gave them to both boys. They returned happily and told the other village children about the kind stranger. The following day, some children began coming. Baba would speak with them kindly in Marathi and give them candy. Once he asked a boy named Lala B. Campbell, will you sing bhajans with me? Lala replied, if you give us sweets, we will do whatever you say. First sing a bhajan, and then I will give you sweets. The children agreed, and Baba said, I will sing a line first, and then you repeat it. He sang in Marathi, oh, Pandurinath, how wonderful it is to see you, standing on bricks with hands akimbo. This line is in reference to a statue of the deity. How beautiful and blissful you look. The children began singing in squeaking voices. Baba laughed, thoroughly enjoying it. After the song, he distributed more sweets, parched rice, and roasted chickpeas. The next day, Baba taught them another bhajan. Oh, Pandurang, when will you give me darshan? When will I see you? When will you appear? Pandaranath and Pandurang are different names of the godlike idol enshrined in the Hindu temple of Vithoba Krishna at Pandapar village in Maharashtra, along the banks of the Chandrabhaga River. Thousands of pilgrims flock there several times a year on sacred days. And after having a bath in the river, worshiped the statue of the deity. When Baba would distribute sweets to the impoverished Harijan children, they would eat them ravenously and then look expectantly at him for more. Baba would again fill their hands with treats to eat, making them overjoyed. Once Baba asked them, "What deva, deity, do you worship?" Each Hindu child named a different god. Then he asked, "Do so many deities love you?" They replied, "We do not know, but our parents worship them, so we also worship them." Hearing this, Baba sang with the children a song to Dattatreya. "O Dattatreya, Lord of the Trinity, O Brahma, O Vishnu, O Mahesh, our obeisance to the one with 3 heads and 6 hands." Baba then inquired, "Who is this Deva with 6 hands?" The children said, "We applied tika, vermilion mark, to the idol, but we have never seen his 6 hands." Baba told them, "While grazing the goats tomorrow, think about this and give me your answer in the evening."
Thank you, Rosalie. Mahu, would you like to read?
Okay. The next evening, page 513. The next evening, the children told him, "We have thought it over, but we have never seen the God with 6 hands." Baba smiled and said, quote, "I will show you that God and every other God, but first join me in singing a bhajan and sing with all your heart." Then there's this verse, quote, "There is this God and there is that God. O God, you are the God of every God." The children asked, "We will sing, but will you give us a treat?" Baba laughed and said, "Yes, I will definitely give you something." Thus, every evening, the master would sing bhajans with these poor children, and though they were illiterate, he would often question them about different issues. Among them was a boy named Wakadia, who was lame, yet he was very intelligent and would daily march the village children to Meherabad in parade fashion with music and singing. He would lead the parade blowing on a long trumpet the whole way, producing a loud, peculiar note. Go, go, go. On 3rd May 1924, 30 children came to Meherabad in a band under Wakadia's leadership. Arjun was given the duty of teaching them to sing bhajans. Baba distributed 2 large baskets of fruit which Munshiji had brought from Bombay. Munshiji had arrived from Bombay that day, and Syed Sahib had come from Nasak a few days before. Baba had a private talk with Munshiji and later sent for the Mandari to join them. He explained to Munshiji how, quote, on religious grounds, Borsop had broken his order of bowing to every member of the Mandali. Baba asked him, "Is my order against the principles of Islam? Does Islam ban paying respects to one person by another?" Once a staunch Muslim, Munshiji stated, "From the Islamic point of view, I do not find anything wrong with this order. But what has religion got to do with your orders? Your very orders are our religion." This reply made Borsuk feel ashamed. Baba changed the topic and had the mail read. A letter from Bailey in Bombay mentioned that a friend of his had recently seen Baba in Bombay. Bailey complained in this letter, quote, "Why did you not send for me when you had come to Bombay? Are you displeased with me in any way?" He further wrote, "It is possible this may be a miracle on your part, as I feel quite certain that had you been to Bombay, you would have either seen me or sent word to me."
Thank you, Mahu. Renee, would you like to read a page? I'll read. Baba, however, avoided the issue, for it was that he was in Meherabad all the time and had not visited Bombay. Later that same afternoon, Baba was driven to Happy Valley with Munshiji, Syed Sahib, Adi, and Rustam. At Happy Valley, he was in a cheerful mood and explained more to them about God realization and a perfect master's circle of disciples. If you were to experience, even for a moment, an infinite Ismail part of that knowledge, you would derive infinite bliss. You would then experience only bliss from every external thing. Every particle would tell us its story and knowledge. The whole world, which now seems full of misery, would shine forth as heaven. I'm going to read this again. If you were to experience, even for a moment, an infinitesimal part of that knowledge, you would derive infinite bliss. You would then experience only bliss from every external thing. Every particle would tell you its story and knowledge. This whole world, which now seems full of misery, would shine forth as heaven. The spiritual master molds only one charged man like himself and bestows to him everything he has. He makes him his sole heir, entrusting him with everything. The charged man distributes this inherited spiritual treasure among his circle, a very select few, numbering 12. This treasure and power is divided among 12 by the charged men according to their capability before the fixed time of their own realization. The experience at realization is the same for all, yet the power given before realization depend on one's rank in the circle and also upon one's forbearance and endurance before realization. This means that when the perfect master leaves the body, the charged man turns into a distributor. It is also possible that the master retains his physical body, though he is dead inside. In some cases, the physical body of the perfect master becomes useless before his inner death. Distribution means to hand over the inner duties of the chargeman to the circle members, whereby the chargeman becomes free. He becomes free to enjoy the infinite bliss which up till then he could not enjoy due to his involvement in the duty of realizing his circle members. The state of the circle members is different from the chargements in this respect. They can enjoy the divine bliss whenever they like and also direct their attention to the discharging of the duties entrusted to them by the chargeman. But after experiencing the highest state of nirvalta, the realization of I am God, for some days or only a few hours, the chargeman is brought down to the lower planes, whereby instead of remaining drowned in divine bliss, he can fulfill his duty toward his circle. While performing this duty, he has to pass through great mental strain and severe storms and crises. Then returned from Happy Valley, they returned from Happy Valley at 8 that night. The next day, Munshi Ji went back to Bombay, Syed Sahib to Nasik, and Ramju returned home to Lonavala to celebrate the Muslim festival of Eid, Prophet Muhammad's birthday. On 7th May 1924, Baba entered seclusion in the Jhopri. Screens were fixed on the windows to prevent insects from entering, and because of his insistence, this work was done hurriedly. The morning prayers were suspended so that all could be available to prepare the room for his seclusion. Baba was to stay in seclusion without food for some months. As if to compensate for this, he had been eating 3 or 4 meals daily for the past several days. He had decided that after retiring in seclusion, he would not utter a single word and convey instructions and important matters through written notes. But the next evening, after the singing, he disrupted his silence, stating, "Within just one day, my health has become weak. This weakness is not due to either fasting or anything else. It is due to the burden of my spiritual work." He added, "Never before was my condition so bad. This body can no longer give me company. It does not cooperate with me anymore. It will take some days for me to leave this room, but after 2 days, I will keep the door open so that all may see me." Padri was signed out to look after Baba's needs and keep watch day and night outside the window of the jhopri. One night, during the period of silence, Baba wanted a drink of water. He clapped, but Padri was sound asleep on the veranda. Baba's displeasure became evident. When Padri awakened in the morning, he found this note placed outside the window. "You son of a swine, I had been thirsty for 3 hours and you've been sleeping. Even my clapping does not awaken you? Are you afflicted with the sleep of Kumbhakarna? Those who don't know, Kumbhakarna is very famous for his sleep according to Hindu mythology. The Kumbhakarna was the brother of Ravana who abducted Lord Rama's wife Sita. Kumbhakarna is characterized as a giant who slept for 6 months and was awake for the next 6 months. He was killed by Ram. For 7 days and nights, Baba stayed secluded inside the jhopri and continued fasting. He drank only weak tea or water, at times boiled sago with a little milk. On 10th May, a black scorpion stung Vishnu. Although Adisha promptly treated him, Vishnu suffered terribly. Baba gathered men outside the jhopri and told them to beware of the scorpions and especially of poisonous snakes, reminding them to always carry a lantern while going out at night. The Gamela yoga labor now concentrated on reconstructing the well for Adisha's orchid area. To the south of the jhopri, a large platform of stones had to be built around the well and channels built to divert the water for irrigation. Large stones were to be brought to the construction site, so a small bullock cart or chakra full of heavy stones would be pulled by the mandali. At times, the stones were brought from as far as a quarter of a mile away. Only the strongest men could pull cart through the undulating fields of Mehrabad. Sorry. The soil has been recently ploughed, and while going over the loose earth, the wheels of the cart would often get stuck. Barso was one of the men who would drag the chakra. He brought humor to the back-breaking work, for he would huff and puff as he pulled it. When the Hindu Mandali was singing bhajans in front of the jhopri on Sunday morning, 11th May 1924, Baba interrupted them and abruptly asked, "Do you all use the lantern while going out at night?" Receiving a negative answer, he upbraided them. "What is the use of your bhajans when you do not follow my instructions? What do you expect to gain by singing devotional songs? Obedience to my orders is the only real bhajan. Only if you obey me will your bhajans have any meaning." Baba asked the rest of the men whether they carried lanterns at night when they went outside to urinate. After those who said they had not been carrying lanterns received an upbraiding, all promised to follow these behests. At that time, there were numerous dens of cobras and adders hidden in the fields of Mehrabad, and Baba often warned the Mandali to be very careful about the deadly snakes. It was a strict order that everyone had to carry a lantern when going out in the dark. Padri was in charge of the medicines, and Baba instructed him, if someone is bitten by a snake, tie a tight bandage around the portion about the bite. The wound should be cut open and filled with potassium permanganate. Then the victim should be sent to Ahmednagar Hospital with 4 of the mandali. If anyone is stung by a scorpion, Adesher should be consulted and he will treat the person. For the past few days, ill feelings for one another had been prevalent among the men.
Mona, it's past 1:30.
So I will stop the recording now.